it's running live. There you go. You're on.
I needed to make a dramatic entrance. How's everybody doing? It's another beautiful day. Looks like we might get some rain today, but still nice and warm. That's cool. Well, my name is Alan Russo. I work at the Eastern Chatham Senior Center, and my hobby is wood turning. And we get together monthly, and we try to come up with a project and see how it works out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But at least I'm having fun. I hope you guys are enjoying it. So I think last time we talked about doing an acorn box. And I think that's what we're going to work on. So let's get to it. I actually have to, this is not going to be a long meeting. I'm going to try to get done as quickly as possible because I have to be the host on another meeting at 12. So let's see if we can get this camera set up in a way that you guys can see. Wah, 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 wah. Oh no, my camera's falling off. Hold on. Got this little holdy thing. My phone. There we go. Okay. All right. So how's that for everybody?
Good.
Be able to see? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So an acorn box has two parts, and we're going to use two different kinds of woods. If you've ever looked at acorns closely, usually, and not always, but usually, the bottom part, the big part of the acorn, is usually a light color, and the top part is usually darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this piece of wood, which is almost white. I have no idea what it is. It was in the wood pile, so I've never turned it before. We'll see what it looks like. But I'm going to use walnut for the top, for the brown part. Now, there's a lot of steps doing this, and I haven't actually done this in a while, so I'm going to have to think my way through it. But first thing we're going to do is get this round, okay? So let me work on that real quick. Get my goggles on. And I'm going to use this tool right here, which is called a roughing gouge. And let's make sure nothing's hitting here. And we're going to turn it on and round this up. And this still has some of the bark on it, so pieces are probably going to be flying all over the place. There's a branch at this end, so it's bouncing around a lot. This part feels like it's round, and you could just test it by doing that. There's no bounce. In the center here, I could feel it's still bouncing, so you can see when it's not round, it bounces around a lot. So I'm going to turn the speed up a little bit because it's a small piece. And one thing I want to make sure of is the piece of wood that I'm going to use for the top needs to be bigger, round, than the base. And I'm going to go just a little bit more on this. The other thing I need to do is I need to square off this end, and I need to make a tenon on this end to hold it in the jaw. So I'll do the tenon first. That should be good as far as the tenon goes. Now, one thing about making boxes, you always need to use dry wood for boxes because it feels a little loose. Hold on a second. If you use wet wood and it warps, you're not going to be able to get the top back on. You know, like the lid won't fit and so on. So you always use dry wood when you're making boxes. Okay. So I'm going to square off this end right now using the same tool. All right, so that's squared off. Now, I'm going to take this off here, and I'm going to put it in the chuck so I could work on the shape. Take out the spur drive. You can see how the jaws just grab right onto that tenon that I made. Make that nice and tight. Perfect. So this end right here is going to be the top of the box. And I'm going to start to shape a little bit what I think an acorn should look like. Now, if you've ever looked at acorns from different kinds of trees, sometimes they're really short and stubby. Sometimes they're really long compared to the top. Sometimes the top is, has a piece that folds over and it's usually all textured. We're not going to do any texturing today, but basically, I don't know why this is so loose. Basically, we'll just try to come up with a shape. I think this is a good size for the top. I kind of like in my mind, I have this ideal shape for what an acorn, like the quintessential acorn supposed to look like. I don't want to take too much wood from the bottom here just yet, because I need to have some meat, because I need to hollow this out. But I want to get an idea of how long this might end up being. I just keep it like that for now. So the next step is going to be to hollow this out. And I want to get rid of this tailstock for a minute. Turn this around. I'm wondering if I should just drill some of this out. You know what? Let's just turn it. All right. So basically, you treat this like a little tiny bowl. And I'm really just going to try to carve the inside of that out. Now, when I used to make these I used to make them as Christmas ornaments sometimes. And it's kind of fun because if you make it as a Christmas ornament and it's a box at the same time, you could actually hide little things in there for kids. You could put some coins or something in it. It's kind of fun. So, but a lot of times when I'm making them really small, I just leave them solid. This way, it's just a decoration. Get this down. All right, let's see how this works. Now, remember, this is dry wood, so I had to sharpen my tools and hopefully they're sharp enough. Guys. All right, that's too bright. Let's get rid of this little nub right here. This tool is a ball/spindle gouge. Generally, it works pretty well for hollowing. And I'm not much of a spindle turning guy, but this is what I use to make it with spindles also. I have to do. Now this is actually this tool is a little big to get into this small space. So I'm gonna eventually revert to a scraper. I actually might start doing now because I can't even really get in there. Yeah, I could hardly get in there because that's small. So I'm gonna use this tiny scraper, which is actually a hollowing tool. Hopefully that's sharp enough. Let's see if I can move this over so you can see what I'm doing. This is really white, this wood. It's interesting. I have no idea what it is, but it's really kind of cool. I'm gonna actually try to lower. I'm gonna try to lower the camera so you guys could actually see inside that. I need a multi-camera studio and somebody to do the shooting while I'm doing the turning.
Tell me about.
Yeah. Just like a bowl or the other boxes we did, we don't want to go through the bottom, so we want to get an idea on how deep I need to go. And I don't think I need to go real deep, but let's see. Yeah, we still got a ways to go, another 3/4 of an inch at least. Now, one of the tricks are, since I don't have the shape of the outside really going yet, you kind of have to think in your mind, because you want the inside to sort of mimic or parallel the outside. But since you don't have the outside done, you sort of have to guess, because you don't want to trim away too much of this later and then go through. So that's one of the reasons I'm leaving the walls really thick on this right now. All right, we're going to check out the depth again. Yep, got about 1/8 of an inch to go. But I'm going to actually thin the walls out a little bit. I'm going to move to a different scraper. See if this works here. I'm going to raise. Now this is a pretty wide tool for such a small diameter, but I'm going to try to get in there. I think that's good enough. I'm just gonna grab a face mask real quick and just do a little bit of sanding in there. And it's always a good idea to have good ventilation or at least a mask on when sanding, because there's fine particles. And that's actually good enough for demonstration purposes. So now I'm going to do a little bit more on the shaping here. I still need to leave a little bulk here because I'm actually going to use this part as a jam chuck for the top. Okay. So you know what? I think I'm going to leave it just the way it is then, and then move to the top. So the next thing is to pop this off. Oops. One thing I did forget to do. Sometimes when you're working with these jaws, you think that they're perfectly even, but they're not. So each one of these jaws has a number on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a number 4 right here. And I know that I need to line that up with the 4 when I put it back on. Okay. Put that aside. You know what? Let's put it over here. And I did a little prep on this. Just get this mask off. On this black walnut, but we still need to round it off and so on. Let's see. So that'll be the top, that'll be the bottom. And I'm just guesstimating the center. It's a very irregular piece, but if you sight right down, you could usually see whether it's, you know, it's pretty equidistant from side to side. Now, black walnut is one of my favorite woods to turn. It's a hardwood, but it's a pretty soft hardwood. And it usually turns really, really well, even when it's dry. But the thing about walnut is you have a piece that you think is just perfect on the outside. And then when you get into it, you find all of these voids. That happens to me a lot with walnut. Put the tailstock back up to hold that up in there. And we can, you know, what I do is, again, I just basically sight down here. I look like it's pretty much in the center. I turned it 90 degrees and it looks like actually it's pretty good. It's pretty much in the center. And then we tighten this down pretty good here. So the first thing I want to do, of course, is to round it out. And we're going to make a tenon on this end because we need to clip that into the jaws again. So let's get the roughing gouge. Everything's good here. Again, I'm going to turn it to speed a little bit because it's a small piece. Pretty rough, so I'm going to go slow. Now we're going to put the tenon on it. To hold it in the jaw. And I want to square off this end again also. All right, so that's ready to go into the chuck right now. Lock this off. So, Alan and Ken, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
So I was wondering if we wouldn't be interested in having a guest turner one time. Maybe Alan or Ken would be interested in showing off what they can do. What do you
Oh
guys
my
think of that?
I am so bad at doing this. I would be happy to try, but I don't know what I'm doing. So I think I'll pass, but I appreciate the offer.
Okay, I mean, what we could do is if you make things a lot easier, if you're interested in trying, I could work the camera and you could just do the turning kind of stuff. But think about it. But anyway. What about you, Alan? How does that sound?
I was going to suggest Ken and I could do the camera, and then I have
Well,
to think about
about
what
it.
I
See if you guys.
have to think about what I could do, but you know,
Well, what's cool, what's cool about all different wood turners, I mean, people have their own niche that they fall into. And, my niches keep on changing. I remember when I first started wood turning, I turned every piece of wood into a goblet. I just loved the whole idea of a goblet for some reason. It was so cool that you could make a wooden goblet. And, then I started to get into pens and I made, a zillion pens. And then I really like making bowls and yeah, it's just, there's so many cool things and everybody gets really good at their own thing. So
What I do mostly is copy what
the
you
one
do.
thing I'll do is to take a diameter of this piece right here. Because the way I usually make my acorns, I need the top to actually stick out almost 1/8 of an inch larger on both sides. So I'm gonna just move this out 1/4 of an inch. And that's about the diameter that I need to have my cap. And you know what? I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger because you can't add wood later on. You could always take a little bit more away if you need to. So let me size this piece first and to see what diameter we need. It's pretty close. So when that caliper falls, we know we're good. And now we're going to get back to the spindle gouge. And again, we're not going to do a complete top on this yet. A complete shape, but I want to get kind of an idea what I want to do. So I'm going to round this off at the bottom. By the way, this is going to be the bottom of the cap, and the top is going to be this way. Since I'm not going to do a lot of hollowing, I can actually get some shape out of this just to get an idea of what I'm looking at. So I should really be moving this over so you guys can see the shape I'm doing. A smaller gouge because I'm working in this really tight area right here. All right, I'm going to leave it at that for now. Now comes the tricky part. actually going to use the top of this as a jam chuck to finish off the top of the acorn. So I need to get this an indentation that this will slide into, but really like pretty tight, because I'm not going to have anything else holding that on. So what I want to do is get an exact measurement here. And I always make this a little bit smaller because I could always open up, but I can't add on. Again, we can't add on anything. Here's the
Alan,
little
just
tip that we
know,
can do this.
before we
I'm
wrap
sorry,
today,
Leah,
I do.
but-
Yeah, it's Jackie. Before we wrap up
Yeah.
today, I do have a question to ask after I stopped recording. So just remind me.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
what I want to do is I want to get the tool rest right about center right here on the piece, and you can tell what that is because of the indentation. And then I'm going to use this as a marking gauge. All right, that's a little bit big. Let's see. And the thing is, you want to only let this part touch the wood, because if this part touches it, it's going to flip it that way. So let's just get an idea of how big this is. When those two line up, that's the line that I need to use. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to come straight in, because sizing this is the important part right now. Straight in with the parting tool. Now I'm only going about 1/8 of an inch deep. So I need to pull this out of the way and see how we did. All right, it's small, which is good. Could always make it bigger. Now, one thing you have to remember, this is really hard for me to judge, and I always make a mistake with this. You have to remember, if you're taking off this side, you're also taking a 16th off this. So you really got to go on tiny increments when doing this. And this, just like doing boxes we did before, it takes a few tries to get that in there. As I'm looking at this, I'm thinking I should made the top a little bit bigger, but it's what it is, so they say. All right, so we gotta keep going. Oh, this is bigger than I thought. I think I may have. Anyway, let's see what happens. I should have made this larger diameter. Not that it's going to be wrong. It's just, it's just not what I expected it to be. I like to have a little bit more of the top overhanging the base when I make these. But like I said, every acorn is different, so. Sorry, guys, I know this part's boring for you, but it's important that we get this fit right.
The mail carrier. But she said she's not. She's on the phone. She said she's looking for a job.
Who was that?
Alta. Yeah, I thought she was the one that carried the mail.
Where she live at?
I don't know.
Yeah, you bet.
Conway, I muted you. If you want to unmute, feel free.
Did somebody just say something?
I said I just muted Conway because of the background conversation. He can unmute when he wants to.
Okay, I didn't realize Conway was on. Hi, Conway. Once I get the right size, then I'm gonna make that deeper so the box lid fits on tighter. Dang. Like they used to say in the cartoons in the 1950s, dag nabbit. Woo! Not as tight as I'd like it to be, but I think that's where we're going with. I'll show you a couple of tricks on how to make that tighter if we need to. So now that I have the size, I can go deeper. Or it's not too deep and I want to go through the top, that's for sure. And now we can start to hollow this out just a little bit. One of the good things, if you were making a piece this size to put on a Christmas tree, hollowing out both ends is important because you don't want it to be too heavy. But I usually make these as just boxes that sit on the table and kind of wobble around. Now this rim needs to stay the way it is, but I can hollow inside that. Now the tripod's in the way. Hold on. This is a really thin, flexible tool. So if you go too far over, it starts to wobble on you. I'm going to take lighter cuts.
Austin, let me make sure I'm muted. Hold on.
You want to get rid of that nub right now. I'm going to hit that with a little sandpaper. So the thing about the sandpaper is I don't want to touch this edge because if I make that bigger, it's going to be too loose to fit. So I really want to just get into here a little bit. Get into the center. Right over here. Maybe to make it a little more interesting when the person opens the box, I'll just put a little, couple little lines in there. So it doesn't just look plain. Quick, hit this with. Now, what I would normally do if I wasn't doing the demos, I'd also put a finish on the inside of this now because it's a lot easier to do it now. But I'm going to try to get a little bit more shape out of this before I part it off. And you'll see how I'll fix the shape as soon as I flip it around. I'm gonna get back to this skinny tool, the small tool again. Move this around. I'm thinking the top is not going to be much taller than this, so I'm going to go straight in. Trying to determine where my top is. It's kind of a visual thing. I like to make a gradual sweep. All right, so that's as far as I'm going to go with this tool. I'm actually going to part this off, and we'll finish the shape in a minute. So I use the thin parting tool so I don't take too much wood off. So that's what it looks like in the middle. Now we'll take this piece of wood off the chuck. And we're going to put this back on, oh, look at this, number 4 is right on top. How nice. And you could actually feel how that fits right in there. And hopefully, the moment of truth is when you turn it on, is it true? And if it's not, oh well. The problem is with a box is if it's not true, you got to mess around here because you can't take any more off this or else this is not going to fit. Beautiful. So now to be able to turn this top on a little bit better and make it look nicer, I pop it on there. And you know what I'm going to do is just for safety, I'm going to grab a piece of tape. Excuse me a minute. Wires all over here. I can't. Oh, no. Okay. Sorry about that.
Alan, just to give you a time check, you got 5 minutes until 12.
Oh, you're kidding. Okay.
No.
I thought this was going to go fast. I thought I was going
Famous
fast.
last word.
Have I mentioned in the past how much I hate masking tape? Like I remember when I was younger, you could actually take a piece of masking tape and just pull it and it would stay together. Now it shreds into all kinds of pieces when you do it. So I'm just going to put this on as just the safety. So it doesn't, if it does pop off, it doesn't go flying into my face or across the room. So now what I'm really doing is right now I put that on here so I could kind of finish the top to give myself a little bit of a shape going on. Now, if I was going to use this as a Christmas ornament, I would keep the top just a little bit flat so I could put an eye hook in there. But since this is going to be a box that's going to sit on a desk, I'm actually just going to make that nice and pointy, I think. Because it's really only being held on by this, I'm going to take nice, easy cuts. Right, that's pretty good, actually. Now I get to take the tape off, probably a little tiny section at a time. Hopefully this will come up in one piece. Woohoo! Now I'm gonna hit this with some sandpaper, just real quick, because I can see a couple of rough spots right there. Don't worry too much about that because of lack of time. So now we have this is the top of the acorn right here. And we're gonna put that aside. I'm not sure that I'm gonna have time to finish this, guys, but let's see. I'll go at it as quickly as I can. So now I wanna get more shape on this. And I'm actually gonna use this as a jam chuck. The bottom part is a jam chuck for this, to do the bottom. Remember not to touch this part because it's been sized already. Part this off right here, I think. Now to turn this into a jam chuck so I could actually finish the bottom of this, we need to get the inside diameter and transfer this. Again, we're gonna go a little bit bigger so I could always work my way down. I didn't take too much off. Good. All right, I'm getting close. Again, this needs to be tight enough so it can hold on there really well. All right, so that's pretty, it's actually perfect. But again, I'm gonna take some tape and just put it around this just in case it goes flying off, which believe me, happens more times than you would imagine. Just an extra safety thing. Alrighty. I'm determined to get it done, guys. Going really nice and true, so that's great. most acorns that I've seen usually have this little dimple at the bottom. So I'm gonna put that like that. Real quick. Hit this with just a little bit of sandpaper, just and you can see it's a relatively simple thing to do, but there's a lot of little steps that you got to remember the order to put them in. I remember a long time ago, I used to make boxes and I hadn't made them in a really long time. And I couldn't figure out how to get them to do what I wanted them to do, but it was kind of funny. So we got this right here. Boom, pop that off. Let's get this so you can see it. So there we have a little acorn box, and it's a pretty good fit, and the top will stay on pretty well, you know, if you wanted to put a hanger on that. But I just noticed, I don't know if I did this, but I don't know if you guys can see it. I'll put it back on. Can you guys see that crack that formed in the top? Anyway, it's cracked all the way up to there. I'm going to try to glue it just to hold it in place for now, but we'll look at it from this side. Actually, it's cracked there.
That is so nice, Alan.
That
It
is so
is.
cool. That
So
is
like I
so
was
cool.
saying, black walnut, you never know what's going to be on the inside. And I actually found a little fault line that's actually going from here all the way across to here. Hasn't split all the way through, but I think I could work with it.
When I give away my pieces that are cracked, I tell them it's just like the guy that made it. They're cracked.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording. Okay,
All right, guys, let me
Done now.
just real quick, just say thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed that. And anybody have any ideas for the next time?